Okay, Abusian latest updates on Ken Ofori-Atta. Abusian credit goes to TV3. Manase Azuri ena ede sa and seminal ebetuja on key point. Abusian Ken Ofori-Atta ne luxury apartments yeba eba arresting ho. Abusian Manase Azuri ede honsem ababetuja otre say sa apartment no a very expensive area unisika untumi entna ho and 20 meters away from the White House. Abusia sa apartment ya ka ho asem no apartment a ekuku damfo bi oni na sa apartment no na former vice president of USA Nadia Kamala Harris. Sa apartment na Nadia eho na ote. Be sa apartment na Ken Ofori-Atta ekokogye na otewo one ne mba na ere ne nabusuafo ye de ewo ho. Na sa apartment Kamala Harris se oton or the price tag eto so almost $2 million. Abusuan Ken Ofori-Atta na akwaje sa apartment no one nabusuafo ewo ho. Enti sa apartment no Kamala Harris na apartment na oton a Ken Ofori-Atta almost $2 million. $2 million, sorry. Ken Ofori-Atta akwakoto every Kamala Harris nenchen. Eho na chese eyes for ekoko peke. Credit goes to Manase Azure, investigative journalist ono ene desa ensemino ebetuja o maye sa hint na abusuya Ken Ofori-Atta ye kase obi wosika papa ne wosika papa because our apartment no enye apartment ketwa na apartment a 20 meters walk to White House. Even kra wadwen kra ma so se eho na ohye mom yanko na yenkonko ti ensema eko so unsubscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me enkabi Ghana Politics Avenue. So and don't forget to click on the notification bell so never any updates be able dropping on so unsa ebi to me aka medamase
is joining us as investigative journalist. Led the investigation to one of the cases that Ken Ofori-Atta is having to answer for. That is the SML case. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Manase, good morning.
Good morning, Alfred.
Let me put it on record. He's joining us from the United States as well. So Manase has some information on how things are playing out. But first of all, Manase, you please. You earlier indicated that Ken Ofori-Atta had a visa, a US visa that would expire on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day this year, correct?
Yes, I did.
So this morning, the Deputy Attorney General just told us that apparently Ken Ofori-Atta's visa was, let me just get it right. It was revoked in June 2025. That is the information that Ken Ofori-Atta's visa, the US visa, was revoked in 2025. And he's been living in the US illegally for the past 6 months until his detention by ICE. That's what we are hearing this morning. So how does it correlate with this visa that you're talking about that will expire on the 14th of February this year?
Well, I am not privy to this information, but it is possible that the visa, as his lawyers even said or confirmed, is set to expire in February. But the revocation, as we are hearing now, it's always possible that somebody knows that, okay, you have this length of stay, but for ABC reason, we are revoking that. So I don't think it's inconsistent with the February 14 visa expiration date.
I see. So that was just the clarity I needed. And you indicated as well that he has other visas, other valid visas?
Yes.
Which are those?
He has valid visas to the UK, United Kingdom, and also a valid visa to Canada. And that his UK visa will expire on the 21st of April 2032, and then his Canadian visa will expire on the 31st of May 2031. That is if somebody doesn't revoke those visas as we are being told. So it is possible that you can have a visa up to a certain number of years, but for some reasons, the state will say, look, this is what we've given you, but we are taking it back. That may be the reason we are hearing about the revocation of the US visa in 2025. But the original visa date, if it hadn't been revoked, I mean, that visa would have expired in February.
I see. Well, that's the update to that information is what the Deputy Attorney General has just given us exclusively this morning, that his visa, the U.S. visa, was revoked as far back as June 2025, and he's been living in the U.S. for the past 6 months illegally, and that is what landed him into trouble with ICE. So that's that exclusive detail that we got. But then this news of his detention, there's some information you've been picking up and digging on that. Tell us about it.
Yes, I have had sources that witnessed the arrest of OforiAtta, and the sources say he was arrested in Washington, D.C. on the morning of Tuesday, January 6, 2026. And then the information is that this wasn't like those organized raids by ICE at specific places. It looked as if they had gone in specifically for him, because the sources say that as soon as he emerged from the entrance of the building, they moved in, surrounded him, got him into the car, and then drove him away. And if you look at the place where he was arrested, it is about 89 miles from where he's detained now. That's about an hour and 30 minutes drive. So that was how it occurred in Washington, D.C. And then there is also the specific location where he was arrested. There is a luxury apartment complex in Washington, D.C., located on the 1111 24th Street in Washington, D.C., and the building is called the Westlight Apartment Complex. Westlight Apartment Complex. And my sources say this is where OforiAtta has been living in the U.S. And then his son has been spotted in this building, his wife too. As to whether he's bought it or is renting it, they cannot say. But this is where OforiAtta has been living. It's a luxury apartment at the west end of Washington, D.C., and some prominent people have lived in this place. The most prominent official who has lived in this building, the immediate past Vice President of the U.S., Kamala Harris, had a 2-bedroom condo in this apartment. And when she became the Vice President and was moving out, this property was listed and sold at $1.89 million. That's a 2-bedroom apartment in this building owned by Kamala Harris. Was listed in April 2021, and then it was eventually sold for almost $2 million. And this is in a prime location with very good security, and it's just about a 20-minute walk from the White House. And this sources say this where OforiAtta has been living in the U.S. until Tuesday morning, when he was emerging from this building. The ICE officials or agents just surrounded him, moved him to the car, and then drove him away to the detention center that he is at now.
Interesting. So he was actually arrested in Washington, D.C. and moved to Virginia.
Yes. he was in Washington, D.C., and the exact location, as I've said, is 1111 24th Street in Washington. And if you Google the Westlight Apartments in Washington, D.C., is quite a prime location. We are told some diplomats and very important people live there, a luxury apartment complex, because of its security and then also location, its centrality to some of the most important buildings in Washington, D.C. That's where Ken has been living.
And this is some exclusive information Manasseh has picked, and he's just disclosing it publicly for the first time here on Key Point. And you say, based on the information you have, the entire process of picking up Ken Ofori-Atta looked like more of a, for the lack of a better expression, a targeted one, that they went in specifically for him.
Exactly. That is what the sources that witnessed the arrest said, and that it was very swift. Some people who were even not looking may not have seen, because as soon as he emerged, they picked him up, and according to them, he's not been living in the so-called like a fugitive that we said here. That he moves about freely, comes out, goes out, and on this occasion, as soon as he stepped out, they surrounded him and picked him up.
I see. Now, but you've also, after this news became public, been working around and also picking up a bit more information about Ken Ofori-Atta and all of this process of he being in the U.S., his lawyers saying he's not well, and then also seeking treatment. The latest we got is that he's recuperating. In fact, that's what his lawyer, that is Frank Davis, said this week, that he decided to stay there a bit longer because he's recovering from the medical process that he went through. Is that consistent with the information that your sources picked up about his living and how he moved around in that particular apartment you talk about?
Yes, when it comes to health, you cannot say much, but according to these sources, they see him living normally. That is what the sources say. That, oh, he's living normally. Sometimes see him out, and sometimes he gets visitors. So it's like he's that's the outward appearance. That's what these sources say. But of course, this is a health issue. You cannot just see someone and assume everyone is right. But if they say he's recuperating, I suspect he's getting better, as the lawyers may have said, because from people who see him, it doesn't look like, that's from the outside, it doesn't look like someone who is very sick. And I think this information we are getting from Washington, D.C. is inconsistent with somewhere last year, December or so, there were some reports that he was cited in Washington, D.C. And if you look at his travel records, he left this country on January 4, 2025, departed from Terminal 3, and then the airline he boarded was the United Airlines flight 997, and that airline was headed for the Washington, D.C. So it looks like his location and life within the D.C. area has also been confirmed.
So how does this news of his detention get to you, especially because of the interest you have as an investigative journalist, investigated a case that he's having to answer for?
Well, I think it is good news. If the Americans want to comply and with our extradition request, I think this has made it easier for them. Extradition comes with a whole lot of legal issues. But if you overstay your visa and then you want to apply for a change of status, which is to extend your stay, and as far back as July 2025, I think last year I even made it public that a source close to Ken Ofori-Atta said he had no intention of coming back home to face justice. And part of the reason the person cited was, look, they are just waiting for him to humiliate him and all of that, and he wouldn't subject himself to that. And maybe it is now becoming very clear that he might have had bail the longest overnight, maybe at the OSP, because those who were charged home, they got their freedom just back home. They got their freedom just a day afterwards. But it looks like that humiliation has started. And for me, I said on this show that whatever we want to do with the Americans goes beyond just the law. There is a politics, there's a diplomacy angle to it. So for me, this makes it easier for them to bring him home to face justice like everyone else. And I think it is good news. And I suspect the kind of attention that has occasioned his travel and stay in the US has also influenced this in a way. If you're hearing of the revocation of his visa, prior to the noise about he running away and all of that, I didn't think he had been in the public for anything that would perhaps have resulted in all of this. So for me, generally, it is good news, and I can't wait to hear the breaking news that, well, Ken Ofori-Atta has been put on a flight and brought to Ghana. He should go to court like everyone else and answer for everything he did. Because spending all those monies on SML could have built hospitals that people like any average Ghanaian who cannot travel outside to get this quality health care he's getting in the US can also do it. So if he decides to use our money in a certain way, then it is only normal that we ask for him to come down and account for his stewardship.
In fact, the Deputy Attorney General this morning has indicated a number of things, that there's going to be a hearing on the 20th, which is just some 10 days away from today, regarding Ken Ofori-Atta's detention. So he would have his day in court, sort of, because of his detention in the US. And then we'll get to see what will happen afterwards. But then he also states that he could be brought into this country earlier than expected. That is, if we're going to go through the route of the extradition, it would have taken longer, as you referenced. But then with this detention, he could be brought in earlier than expected. That's all things being equal.
Yes, I don't disagree with him, because I also said, I don't remember whether it's on this show or Newsday, that when the Americans want you out of their country in this evening, they can get him out. There are people who had green cards and other valid visas, and for some reason, something they did or said, they got them out. And I have read somewhere that staying in another person's country is a privilege that that country gives you. And it was in relation to some criticism that US officials were responding to. And that it is a privilege, it's not your right to live here. But now there is some evidence of the overstaying or a violation of his status. So if they are committed to bringing him, I think this is the easiest way, and there is good reason to expect that they would want to help us. I think I remember that the first batch of people that were extradited from Ghana to the US were told the request had come long ago when President Akuffo, that is Ken Ofori-Atta's cousin, was in office, and people were asking, so why did Ghana not act? This administration has sent a number of people to the US, a number of Ghanaians to the US to face justice. So it is only normal that we expect to have that kind of arrangement, that when they need the people who have caused some harm to Americans, we give it to them. And when we need someone who has caused so much harm to Ghanaians, then we have this expectation that they would bring him. And for me, this is the easiest way to get him down to Ghana than even the extradition.
Well, Manasseh, thank you very much for talking to us, and stay with me in a bit. How easy will
Okay, abusua we ne ensema ekoso ewo political highway ne so Ken Ofori-Atta ne apartment na owo apartment Otofri Kamara Harris ho. And onsem ena ye de brem better ma sesa mo chepe ne kokoti sa ensem we e de MI Ghana Politics Avenue. So and don't forget to click on the notification bell so na be any update be dropping on onsa ebetumi aka. Madam say